home? For most people, this is a simple question that's fairly easy to answer, but that hasn't been the case for me. I have lived on 4 continents in the past 10 years. I've sweat under Egypt's hot, burning sun, and I've shivered in Cincinnati's icy snow. I've seen the tall and modern skyscrapers of Singapore, but I've also visited the ancient temples and tombs of Luxor. These experiences that I've lived have truly shaped my identity and turned me into a third culture kid. Before moving on with my talk, I want to define what a third culture kid is. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a third culture kid is a person who has a culture that is different from that of their parents or their passport. That third culture represents that new culture and identity that they assume based on the place that they live and the things that they experience in that place. According to an international government website that I found, there are 230 million third culture kids in the world. That means that if we took all of the third culture kids and put them in a country together, it would be the 5th biggest country in the world. So that's a lot of third culture kids. Additionally, 85% من الTCKs بيتكلموا لغتين أو أكتر. Sorry, I think I switched to Arabic there. I was saying that 85% of third culture kids are bilingual. Pero yo también hablo un poco de español. I tady mluvím česky. So I guess that makes me quadrilingual. The languages that I speak and the experiences that I've had in all of these places are what make me a third culture kid and have me under that definition. I now want to zoom in to my own experiences. I want to tell you about the places that I've lived and what I've learned from those places. My story starts in Cairo, Egypt. My grandma was the one who delivered me as a baby. She's a gynecologist, and she was the first person I made eye contact with and smiled at in my life. We were very close when we lived in Egypt, and we are still close now. But when we were in Egypt, we lived on the same street. Every day after school, I would go to her house. We would eat at her house, do our homework at her house. Everything was perfect. Family was such an important part of my life. I could see my family anytime, any day. And I just truly had such a great connection with the people around me in Egypt. Additionally, I just knew everything in my life was so much simpler, maybe because I was younger, but when asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said Miss Egypt. You can see that in the picture over here. So things were just very different. And then, my dad came home from work one day, and he said, "We are moving to Prague." I couldn't imagine what that would be like. I couldn't process it in my head as a 9-year-old. What do you mean I'm not going to smell shawarma in the streets? What do you mean I'm not going to have kushari every other week? What do you mean I'm not going to hear the loud honking of cars and experience Egyptian traffic every single day? And then it happened. My last night in Egypt was the night of my aunt's wedding. There was laughter, we were singing, we were dancing. I was her flower girl. And then all of a sudden, we were at the airport. And all I could see was those white, dim airport lights. My dress that I was wearing at the wedding was in my suitcase. And I was stepping into a new chapter of my life. That new chapter was Prague. When I first moved to Prague, I hated it. It was too cold. It was cold in August. That was something I'd never experienced in Egypt. I was shocked at the sight of snow. I didn't like Charles Bridge. I felt like it was overrated. And I felt like my school was so different. I didn't know what to do. I was so stressed. I felt like I didn't have those same connections that I had back in Egypt. And I felt like everyone was judging me, and there were so many stereotypes that I had to debunk. In our first few weeks in Prague, my Muslim family experienced an anti-Muslim protest. I was too young to fully understand what was happening. It was loud, there was a lot going on, my brother was crying. I didn't know how to react. But looking back, I think that experience really did shape part of who I am today. And then, as the years passed, Prague became home. I started loving Prague. I loved my school. I joined my swim team at my school, and we were traveling all over Europe. 1 month it was a swim meet in Moscow, the next it was a swim meet in Budapest, next Warsaw. I was traveling everywhere. I was having such a great time. I also had such great friendships. I probably developed my first real friendships in Prague, and I watched the fireworks for New Year's in downtown square. I visited the astronomical clock. It was truly so great. I learned to ski in the snow that I was once terrified of. And I truly learned so much in Prague. And then my dad came home with another announcement. This time, we were moving to Singapore. Singapore was a mess when I first moved there. It was just humidity and tears all mixed together. My hair turned into an afro. It was so hot and I didn't like it. The island was too small, the school was too big, I was getting lost using public transportation. I didn't like it and I didn't know what to do, and the worst part is that I felt like I had to prove myself all over again. No, I don't live in a pyramid. Yes, I'm from Egypt. Yes, Hana is an Egyptian name. The same stereotypes that I had debunked in Prague were coming back in Singapore, and I felt like I had to prove myself to everyone all over again. And then I found out that gum wasn't allowed in Singapore, and I was like, I want to chew my gum. After that, COVID hit while we lived in Singapore. I didn't think things could get worse, and they did. Singapore was so strict with their COVID rules and regulations. We were wearing masks for forever, and we weren't allowed to leave the house in groups of more than 2 people. So my family of 5, if we wanted to go out to eat, would have to take 3 tables and split up into 2, 2, and 1. It was probably not like what anyone else in the world was doing, and it was so strict. And one of the worst parts is that we couldn't go back home to Egypt as much as we wanted to, because if we did, then we would have to come back in quarantine for so long, and we would have to get government approval, which was so hard to be granted. So I truly learned so much during COVID times in Singapore, and I was so convinced that I'm never going to like Singapore. And then during my junior year of high school, Singapore became my city, not just my home, my city. I was so involved at school. I absolutely loved everything that I was involved in, and I made some of my best friends in my classes, on the swim team. I loved it so much, and I felt like Singapore was my home, my place. The public transportation that I once found confusing, I have memorized to this day. I miss the heat. I miss it so much, and I think about it all the time. And I miss Marina Bay Sands in that picture over there. I miss the malls. I miss so much. But of course, you guys can probably guess what's coming next. We were sitting at my favorite pizza place in Singapore, and my dad said, "We're moving." This time, it was to Cincinnati. I didn't want to move my senior year of high school. I felt no one moved senior year of high school, especially to Cincinnati. I joined school and everyone had known each other for forever, and I was the only new kid, and I didn't know how to act, and I didn't know what to do. I had to break those same stereotypes again, but I also had to do so much more. I was switching from the IB system to the AP system. I took 4 APs my senior year. I was so overwhelmed, and I was so certain that Cincinnati was never going to become my new home. And then it did, like it always does. That picture in the middle is me when I graduated from high school, and I was very happy with how I did that year. I definitely turned my new school into one of my homes. And then that picture over there, my friends came to visit. My friends from Singapore came to visit, and those are the brownies that we made, and we wrote Cincinnati on the bottom. And we agreed that we would all visit each other in our different cities, because that's also part of being a third culture kid. And then this is another one of my homes. My friends at work have also truly made me feel like Cincinnati is a home. They've made me feel so welcome. And now I can confidently say that, yes, I did experience that same inverse honeymoon phase that I've experienced with all of the different cities that I've moved to. I hated it at first, and then I slowly went up to building it and making it a place that I want to be, a place that I can call home. UC is my home. Bear Paddle Swim School is my home. My friends here and in Singapore and in Prague are all my home. So based on all of these places that I've lived, the three main things that I've learned are perseverance, awareness, and learning to appreciate other cultures. I persevered so much because every time that I moved, everything around me was changing. And I didn't know how to deal with that change, but the only thing that stayed constant was me, my personality, my strength. I fought through it. I made every single one of those places a place that I am happy in, and a place that I can call home, and a place that I can achieve success in. I also became a lot more aware of myself and of the people around me and of the different cultures around me with every move. I learned more about myself, my strengths, my weaknesses, my beliefs, my traditions, and more about others. And it has truly been so eye-opening. So if I were to tell you guys what to take away from this talk, it would be to travel, to learn, and to explore. Go out and buy that plane ticket. Go on that study abroad trip because you learn so much from traveling. Traveling and seeing these other places is not something you can watch on the 10 o'clock news. It's something that you need to experience firsthand to truly feel in your heart. And you guys, traveling is not, it's amazing. You learn so much about other people, about other cultures. It's something that's good for your Instagram feed, but it's also good for your soul and for your heart. So I truly strongly recommend that everybody travels, that everybody explores the world around them because it is beautiful. So now, when I ask the question that I asked in the beginning, where is home? My answer is all of the above. It's not just Prague, and it's not just Singapore, and it's not just Egypt, and it's not just Cincinnati. It's all of those. It's all of these places that I have turned into my home. I took my first steps as a baby in Egypt, and I solved my first calculus problem in Singapore, and I made my first real friend in Prague,